In November 2019, a report came out saying that Warner Brothers didn't know how to make Superman, quote, relevant to modern audiences, end quote. This, of course, sent me into an uncontrollable rage, which festered for months and has resulted in me hunched over aggressively writing this video, while a dark Sith version of myself sat by in true delight. As you can probably guess if you haven't watched any of my previous videos regarding Supes, he's my favorite superhero of all time. No, not because he's faster than a speeding bullet or more powerful than a locomotive, but because Clark Kent is a good character, and I think he is the reason Superman is still relevant to modern audiences. Part 1. Why I love Superman. I find Superman to be one of the more relatable characters in the DC universe. I don't come from a billionaire family, I'm not a genius forensic scientist, and I'm not a snarky fighter jet pilot. I did, however, come from a hardworking family who did their best to teach me to be a good person. That's what's interesting about Superman. I mean, for all intents and purposes, Clark Kent is a god walking among men who genuinely wants to go to work Monday through Friday and hang out with his girlfriend on the weekends because he's just like you or me. He just so happens to be the most powerful being in the world, though. I actually think having essentially a super Mr. Rogers-like character in a 2020 world could be pretty interesting story-wise. Everyone is so cynical nowadays. Can you even imagine if this guy in a red cape and blue tights came down from the sky and said, "Don't worry, Johnny, I'll help you find your lost dog"? Everyone would be running to Twitter to poo all over him and look for his flaws in order to cancel him. That dynamic of a good flat character arc attempting to change the world around him makes for good storytelling. If you'd like an example, just look at Goku in the Dragon Ball Z series. For a different comparison, let's look at a character like Dr. Manhattan for contrast. When he obtained his powers, he literally lost all sense of humanity and decided to leave. Superman easily could have gone down that same path, but instead he shows more humanity than any of his Justice League colleagues. He's all-powerful, but incorruptible. For the most part. Part 2. Story possibilities. That leads me to my next point. In order to make a great Superman movie, you need good villains with good plans. Let's look at the first two movies in the Dark Knight trilogy for example. Ra's al Ghul and Joker both attempted to either corrupt Batman or corrupt the city of Gotham itself. This creates great tension and a will he or won't he scenario. This exact formula is what a character like Clark Kent is begging for. And it's not like we need to write new antagonists for it. He already has Lex Luthor. Luthor's whole point against Superman is that he believes he's a threat to us all, and he constantly tries to prove the point correct. For the most part, Clark proves him wrong. There have been scenarios, though, where he's proven otherwise. Part 3. References in other mediums. Now I'd like to talk about some of my favorite Superman moments he's had over the years. The first one relates directly to what I was just talking about. Let's look at the premise for the video game Injustice: Gods Among Us. Spoiler warning. In that game, Joker is able to brainwash Superman into thinking he's fighting Doomsday, which causes him to kill Lois and their unborn baby. This causes Superman to snap. He then kills Joker and becomes a ruthless tyrant. If you want gritty in your Superman stories, this is how it's done. Now, I'm of course not saying they have to have him kill Lois in every single movie, but having him put in these scenarios where he could break is endlessly interesting. Next is a moment I first saw watching Smallville as a kid. Clark's father, Jonathan Kent, dies of a heart attack. Up until last year, I always hated this. I never understood the reason for killing off one of his parents. But then I thought about it. The true tragedy in it is that even with all the best powers you could ask for, Clark still couldn't save the person most important to him. There's something beautifully sad about that. The next scene is from Justice League Unlimited, which is my favorite visual content DC has ever produced. And in its finale, they had one of the most badass moments I've ever seen from Superman himself. As he's fighting Darkseid, he utters these words: "I feel like I live in a world made of cardboard, always taking constant care not to break something, to break someone. Never allowing myself to lose control, even for a moment, as someone could die. But you can take it, can't you, big man?" What we have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am. I mean, somebody get me a fan and some ice cubes because I am sweating. The final moment I'd like to discuss is less action-packed. It's actually just Superman talking someone literally off a ledge to be exact. In this comic scene, Superman responds to a call about someone getting ready to commit suicide, and rather than just bring them down with force, he just gives her someone to talk to. You see, this ultimately is why I believe Superman is relevant to modern audiences. Because we need a character like him. In a world where you can turn on the news and it's nothing but unfortunate political arguments, gun violence, and disease, we could all use a symbol to get behind. And in my opinion, that symbol very well could be in the shape of a red and yellow S. Thank you very much for watching. If you could do me a favor, leave the video a like if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe for more Geeks Weekly content. In the description, you'll find my podcast, as well as my social media links if you'd like to follow those as well. In the comment section down below, let me know either your thoughts on Superman, a favorite superhero of yours that you'd like to see more in modern media, or your favorite Superman moment. I've been Kyle from Geeks Weekly, and I'll see you again next time.